The name's Lusso. Sha Lusso. It's too hot to be in a full suit. Hi everyone and welcome to Sha Lusso, and yes, today we are talking about James Bond watches, specifically the watches worn by Daniel Craig throughout his career as 007. Now of course, just now on October 1st, No Time to Die came out and it featured Daniel Craig's last outing as James Bond, so I thought it fitting to put together a bit of a compilation of the watches that he's used in the movies themselves. So I won't be going over limited editions unless they're ones that were worn specifically in the movies. And of course, let me know in the comments below which is your favorite Bond watch from the Daniel Craig era, as well as your favorite James Bond watch in general. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. But let's get started, and starting out with 2005's Casino Royale, Daniel Craig's first outing as 007. So the movie starts out set in Madagascar, and he has a very intense chase scene, and throughout this chase scene, he is seen wearing an Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean. Now, bearing in mind that this movie was released in 2006, the Planet Ocean had just been released in 2005, so it was a great way for Omega to promote their newly released model by featuring it on James Bond's wrist. And right away, the Planet Ocean reflects a different type of Bond. You know, it's on a rubber strap, it's thicker, it's bigger, it's a 45mm. It reflects, shall we say, a rougher Bond than the one that we're used to. Many times he's referred to as a blunt instrument, but obviously with some level of sophistication, otherwise they wouldn't make him a 00. And the Planet Ocean reflects that. You know, it's something that's very, very tough. You can use it in any situation. It's able to take a beating and keep going. It makes perfect sense for Bond, especially at that point in the movie and in his character arc. Then later in the movie, we see the return of the Diver 300M as first seen on the wrist of Pierce Brosnan. Now this one was the chronometer spec version with the coaxial movement. So it's essentially the older generation of the one that I have, and it's the Omega that is most associated with James Bond. And again, this whole thing of it following his character arc, he doesn't don this until he is already a 00 and is on mission, and you see it throughout the rest of the movie, including of course the famous casino scene, as well as the train scene where Vesper Lynd notices, makes a quip about it being a Rolex, and he corrects it saying Omega, not to say diminutive, but on the contrary sounding like he's got something better than a Rolex. You can take that how you will, but that's how he said it, and you can interpret what you want about whether Omega is better than Rolex or not, but James Bond clearly had his preference in that movie. Moving on to Quantum of Solace, released in 2008, this was Craig's second outing as James Bond, and he carried over the Planet Ocean, this time now though on a bracelet, still sporting the Omega 2500 movement on the inside. However, he downsized to a 42mm, but still definitely a bulkier choice compared to the 300M, and he wears this watch throughout the movie. Again, reflecting him as sort of a tougher Bond, maybe not as sleek and stylish as Pierce Brosnan's one, hence the reason for ditching Pierce Brosnan's original 300M diver. And already at this point, Daniel Craig's James Bond is starting to get more and more associated with the Planet Ocean versus the 300M. Carrying on to 2012 Skyfall, this is the first time we see James Bond wearing a Seamaster Aqua Terra, despite the fact that the Aqua Terra had been released originally in 2001, so they would have had plenty of opportunities to feature in a Bond movie before, but they never put it on James Bond's wrist until the London scenes in Skyfall in 2012. In addition to that, we do also see Daniel Craig wearing his trademark Planet Ocean. Interesting fun fact, in the movie itself, it was actually a titanium watch that was used for the filming. However, it was designed to look like the steel one that was in production, so it still counts in terms of it really being the steel version. I think they used the titanium more out of practicality for filming the movie, with the idea being that Bond was wearing the steel version, and you can see that throughout all of the promotional material as well. The movement got an upgrade, he's now got the 8500 on the inside, and it has different dimensions to his previous ones, but still following in that idea of being a much more brute force and gritty Bond versus Pierce Brosnan's one. However, the introduction of the Aqua Terra also shows the other side of James Bond. You can see he's getting more sophisticated. He goes for a dressier watch, especially in scenes where he's wearing a suit. So it shows a little bit more evolution of Daniel Craig's character, as well as the watches that his character picks. And also interestingly, the Aqua Terra he picks is also a 38.5mm version, not even the 41mm. So it shows again, he's sort of alternating between what is sort of the big and brutish and the sleek and sophisticated by going for a smaller size. Then we have Spectre, and here we have the first instance ever of James Bond wearing a special edition watch in one of the movies. Up until this point, since the Pierce Brosnan era, there had been plenty of special edition James Bond watches, but James Bond actually never wore those watches in the films. he always wore a regular production watch. That is, of course, up until Spectre. Now, the movie opens in Mexico, where they have a really elaborate single-shot take of him walking through Mexico City during the Day of the Dead festival. He goes through this entire scene wearing an Aqua Terra. This time he's bumped up in size to the 41.5mm. It's again another example of him wearing a slightly more sophisticated look while he's got a suit on. But the interesting thing now comes in Spectre. Of course, it's best known for the Spectre Seamaster 300. Now, the Seamaster 300 had actually been introduced in 2014. This movie was released in 2015. So again, Omega is using James Bond as a platform to promote their regular production models. However, in this case, they did do a special edition of 7,007 pieces for Daniel Craig's movie. The main differences are the indications on the bezel. They're 0 to 12 instead of the normal 60-minute bezel. And also it has the lollipop seconds hand. And crucially, it did bring back the notion of James Bond using a NATO strap on his watch. Also, this did mark a big renaissance for NATO straps, in large part due to the fact that people saw it. You know, as much as collectors might be saying, oh, we've been wearing NATO straps forever, this brought NATO straps back into the mainstream. And I actually have the strap that he wears on this, and I use it on my Seamaster 300M as well. And then the last first, at least for Daniel Craig's James Bond, is this brought back the use of gadgets in a watch. And this is something that I really missed. I loved seeing those gadgets in GoldenEye, where he had the laser, Tomorrow Never Dies and Die Another Day, where he uses his Seamaster as a detonator for explosives. In this case, essentially the watch itself is an explosive. It's a grenade, and he uses it in the film to get himself out of a sticky situation, like we've seen with so many classic Bond watches over the years. So I was really glad to see that come back. Now, with No Time to Die, the most recent James Bond film, and of course, he wears the No Time to Die watch. Spectre already set the standard by releasing a special edition Bond watch that's actually worn in the films. They carried that over, and Daniel Craig was actually apparently very involved in the design and the elements that they brought into the No Time to Die Seamaster 300M. Of course, it features a return to the classic Seamaster 300M that has been pretty much synonymous with James Bond and Omega, however, with a lot of modifications to match Daniel Craig's James Bond versus Pierce Brosnan's. So the biggest change, of course, is the Milanese bracelet. Again, something that brought back that sort of vintage notion. You know, Milanese bracelets became very popular after that. I even bought a Milanese for my watch, and it shows also the power of, you know, this product placement. We may think that we're immune to it, but at the end of the day, it is a cool way to showcase different ideas. And one way or another, the market does respond to it. And that's the reason why Omega keeps paying to be in these movies, because it works. And for us as collectors, it's cool knowing that we have the watch that James Bond wears. But moving on to the watch itself, the bracelet wasn't the only change. It was made entirely in titanium, as is the production model. This, of course, reflects the need for a little bit more utilitarianism. Obviously, if he's going to be doing all these stunts, going through all of these action sequences, it makes sense he has something that's light on his wrist. Steel, at the end of the day, is heavy. And after so many years of wearing Planet Oceans, Bond clearly wanted something that was a little bit more tactically viable, shall we say. The dial and the bezel also show aging, again reflecting an aging James Bond that's featured throughout the film. And I don't want to give out any spoilers, but I will say that the METAS certified anti-magnetic caliber on the inside actually is functionally useful thanks to one of the gadgets that Q puts in it. I won't say what the gadget is, but needless to say that anti-magnetism comes in handy. So I think that was a nice way in which Omega was able to bring in the watch's actual redeeming features to something that would be relevant for the movie, to make it seem a little bit less gimmicky, have a little bit more buy-in, and also to give the watch a little bit more of a role than just being featured on his wrist, which is really all it had done for Daniel Craig's first 3 movies. So definitely Daniel Craig's character as James Bond has evolved, and his watches have as well, and I think that's a great thing that Omega has done throughout this character arc. With the Pierce Brosnan era, he had broadly the same watch throughout the whole time. In this, I think Omega took a bit more active role in developing the character arc of the watches they showed, and also they showcased a broader range throughout the series instead of sticking with just one watch. So let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite James Bond watch from the Daniel Craig era? And also let me know which James Bond you'd like me to cover next in terms of highlighting the different watches they wear throughout the movies. And of course, if you like this video, make sure you like it and share it. If you want to see more pictures and infographics of watches as seen throughout this and all my other videos, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Shaluso. If you want to see more videos of watches, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell as well so you know when the next video comes out. In any case, thanks for watching this video, and we'll catch you on the next one.